and welcome to Personality Profile here on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Lexis Bill, and it's a very lovely Thursday evening. Of course, it's been a good day, a little bit of showers here and there, very calm day. So it actually sets the background for a very calm, relaxing conversation this evening. And my guests will inspire you so much. Now, last week, my team and I decided to celebrate mothers with special emphasis on mothers taking care of children with special needs. And we got some education about what these conditions could be. Our drive doctor, Dr. Yao Safo, CEO of Medicas Hospital, was on our drive time on Wednesday as usual to educate us on some of these conditions. But more importantly, we got to speak to some amazing super moms and celebrate them. What was it like to take care of a child with special needs? For me, it was one of the uniquest celebrations we've done, and most of the mothers that we personally visited over the weekend appreciated that gesture. Tonight on Personality Profile, I have one super mom on the show. Yeah. Adam actually calls her the class prefect of the super moms, and rightly so. I'm spending time with an amazing woman who has inspired many with her advocacy and her lifestyle as well. You might have come across, her vivacious personality on social media, or probably hear her talking about autism on some of our platforms. She's the founder of Clicks Africa Foundation, a support center for children with autism, and also current president of Inclusion Ghana, a member of Inclusion International, a network organization working to reduce stigmatization and ensure full inclusion of all persons with intellectual disability and their families by advocating for their rights and their needs. She's a board member of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities as well, a very strong advocate for autism, and a mother of 20-year-old superstar Nanaya, who is on the autism spectrum. She's a teacher by profession. She graduated from the School of Performing Arts at the University of Ghana, and a proud daughter of Nswatre in the Bono region. Yes. Madame Mary Amoah is my guest on Personality Profile. Auntie Mary,
Yes, Lexus.
so nice to see you. How are you?
I'm good.
And you're looking good. You actually picked the right cover for tonight.
Thank you. And I love your suit.
Oh, thank you so
That's my
much.
favorite color.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Obeya, na ma share with Debbie. Debbie,
It's
and Rana share
beautiful.
with- Thank you
It's
so much.
beautiful.
Thank you so much. But how are you, by the way?
Um, you want an honest answer?
Yes, no, I want an honest answer.
I'm fine. I can't complain because I have life. So I won't complain. But it's been difficult. It's been extremely difficult. Yes. Difficult because I'm raising a 20-year-old on the spectrum who looks like an adult, but in every sense of the word, she's like a little girl or a 1 or 2 year old. So it's been very difficult. So it's like giving birth and having a child that never grows. That's how
Wow.
it feels.
Wow. And even more difficult because on the outside, she looks like a perfect
Exactly.
20-year-old. But intellectually and communication wise, she's still like a little girl.
Yes. So it makes it very difficult. I think sometimes people don't even understand, because when we talk about disability, people want to see it so they can understand it. So if you see me and excuse my language, if I have any visual impairment, you can say, oh, okay, Mary might have difficulties, with sight.
Yeah.
But with autism, on the outside, everything looks perfect. It's only when you begin to interact with them, then something is not right here. Yeah. And so it makes it very difficult.
I can imagine. And I really got to appreciate it last week because we had conversations with some of the super moms who were also raising children. I personally visited Auntie Sophia, who has three children, all with autism.
Yes.
And I just couldn't imagine. I mean, I just couldn't imagine.
Even with one, I'm complaining.
I
So
know,
times three,
it's
I don't know how she does it.
I don't know, but it's quite difficult. I understand that
Very.
very well. We'll get into that journey to appreciate it a bit more. But let's start off from last weekend where we celebrated Super Moms. How was your Mother's Day?
It was great. Joy FM made it great.
Ah,
It feels so good to be appreciated, to be celebrated. And I was so grateful when I had a team, visited me last week. It was beautiful. The food was good.
oh, you enjoyed the
Oh,
food from Labadi, huh?
it was so good. Thank you for all the
Oh, that's
sponsors.
nice.
Thanks to all the sponsors there. Um, we also had some gifts,
Yeah.
and I'm so grateful.
Oh,
I
that's so
am
nice.
so grateful.
I mean, is the least we could do, actually. We wish we could do more. And hopefully, by having conversations like what we are having tonight, we would have more people pay attention to people like you and lend a helping hand. You, incidentally, have a whole center with over 80 children that
Yes,
you're taking care of.
yes,
Wow.
yes. 80. They're actually more, but I think it's a privilege, to be, you know, in that situation to support more parents. For me, I keep saying every day that providing therapy for the child is one. Supporting that parent who is going through that journey with that child, it's also
Another
another
part
area
of
that
it.
we need, because I think in Ghana we take for granted, you know, um, mental health issues. And elsewhere, when you are crying, people will say, "Oh, okay, let me offer you a tissue,"
Yeah.
because we feel that even as you cry, it's a form of therapy. But here, you start crying, say, "Oh, Bemansu," an adult, you're not supposed to show that on
That
the outside.
emotion. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think we end up
Bottling so much inside
everything
you.
inside, and you can practically see people falling,
Yeah.
you know. But then it's so difficult. Whom do you even talk to?
Mm.
Whom can you trust? Whom can you confide in?
Mm.
And it's difficult. It is.
Well, in this space that you're in, you should feel very comfortable, okay?
I am
Is that
already.
okay?
I am already.
That's really good.
Joy is my home, so
That's good. We'll get into details of life as a mom who's taking care of somebody with special needs. But I want to get to know you a bit more because I love your vivacious nature. I love how you interact on Facebook and even in person. You are like a firebrand, and I'm like, where's this woman from? So I know you're from Inswatre
yes,
in
in the
the.
Brunafri region.
Mm.
My dad was the late chief,
Oh, okay.
yes, of Insiatre. So,
So you are a
um,
princess.
well,
Yeah, you're a princess.
they say, "Oh, anybody name a party." Well, so he's
Okay.
gone, so maybe I'm no more. Yes, but
But
my
how
dad,
was life growing up? Is that where you grew up?
yes, yes, with my mom and dad and so my dad had other wives,
Okay.
not just two. I think when I saw three,
Three wives.
yeah, and we're many with aunties and uncles.
But how
And
many
he,
biological children?
I knew of 19. Yes.
you, you decided to answer a different question. I just said how many children. You said the question wasn't how many children did you know. So you are actually saying that there could be more.
There could be more.
But you knew of
Um,
19.
19. But growing up, I think there was so much security at home. I felt so secured, in the presence of my dad. And I really had a good, time,
Upbringing.
yes, growing up. Even though we come from a very, humble background. I remember in those days, if you want to watch television, you have to fetch water for
Oh,
somebody else, and then on Sunday they will allow you to come. You don't even go inside. You
you
sit
stand
outside,
outside.
yes, and then you watch opera. Things have actually
I
changed.
know, right?
Things have changed.
Now people have access to
Oh,
TV and phones and whatnot,
yes,
and
yes,
it's a it's not a
but it
luxury
was
anymore.
beautiful. It
Yeah,
was beautiful. Knowing that you even have the opportunity of going to watch television.
yeah,
So that when you go to school on Monday, you can talk about it to your friends with
right.
pride.
Yes,
Yesterday I
yes.
saw the drama. It was good. My
Yeah.
dad was a typical, traditional person.
Oh, I see.
And I remember very well, I went to school in Sunyane. I went to primary school in Sunyane, then continued in Sunyane. We were actually the pioneers of Notre Dame Secondary School
Oh,
1987 year group. We
okay.
went in September. And my dad actually wanted me to become a Catholic sister.
Are you serious?
Yes, so in Insuate we have handmaids of the Holy Child Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where there's the center, the place where they train these sisters. So I think my dad he
Mm.
fancied the uniform.
But were you a religious child or?
Not at all. I think at home I was, you dare not, fool in presence of my dad.
Mm.
So at home you need to just make sure you do the right thing.
Right.
But outside I wasn't. I was a bit stubborn.
So, but your dad didn't know this.
No, not at all. So I remember when I came back, I said, unya copy. I said, no. Then I looked at him and I said, you don't know me. You don't know me. I'm not that innocent as you see,
Uh,
you know.
So when
And I
he
think my
asked
dad was
that
surprised.
unya call be like he,
You know,
he he wanted you to have maybe a calling to be a sister.
yes, he actually sent me to the then Catholic Bishop of Sunyane.
Mm-hmm.
May his soul rest in peace. Um, Bishop James Kojousu.
Mm-hmm.
He passed some years back. And I stayed with him for some time. And then when I came back home, it's like, don't you feel anything with all the prayers and the rosary? I said, Daddy, I don't feel anything. He said, am I sure? I said, you don't know me. You haven't even asked whether I have a boyfriend or not. Then you are pushing all these things on me. Then you looked at me and said, I'm not that innocent, oh, Daddy. Be steady.
Wow. And at that time you had a boyfriend.
I did. Oh, at 20, dear. Oh, but I was 20. But in those days, boyfriend is not like the one today where it involves, you know, other things. No.
Yeah.
Those days it was writing letters on letter pads and
Yeah.
the number of letter pads. You sit and write the letter, you make a mistake, tear it into pieces,
And then
rewrite. You
flip
want
the
the
next
boy to
page.
know that your handwriting is nice. The letters that we've written, apparently nothing came out. Empty letters.
Wow.
So I think
I
Dad looked at
see.
me and said, well, let me just leave. And so I said, okay, let me be.
But what are some of those lessons you picked from him?
Well, I think he was very conscious of making sure that we get the education because not everybody in the family had the opportunity of going to school.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the lucky ones.
Oh, I see.
He would send the boys to school, but not the young, the girls.
Ah.
So I was one of the lucky ones. And I remember very well when I finished secondary school and I came back home and I told my dad I wanted to come to Osei, that was in Kumasi.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said that was very far from Sunyane. And I said, if he doesn't allow me to go to sixth form, then I'll let them arrest him. So I actually went to the police station.
Hey.
I went there and reported my dad. And so the man looked at me and said, young man, I said, yes. He said, are you all right? I said, I'm perfectly all right. You want me to go and arrest the paramount chief of the place, the person who has given me? And I said, yes, because he's, stepping on my own rights.
Wow.
So this policeman actually held my hand. We came back home. My dad said, leave Onye Papa. So I was the one that Onye Papa. I said, okay. They said, what's the problem? I said, well, I want to go to sixth form.
Mm-hmm.
Dad says no. But I think, according to him, he felt very weak at the time. I think it was around, after 80.
Okay.
Dad died at, I think, 94. And so he felt that in case he sends me to sixth form and something happens to him, who else would? And that time, Alawa had come. The training college.
Training colleges.
They had introduced the allowance.
Yeah.
So he felt that was a way of me getting some savings.
Right.
So he held my hand, took me to Brekun Training College, got me admitted, and then I started. So I came back from training college in 1995.
Okay.
And before I came back, I was married.
Are you serious?
Yes. I got married quite early.
Okay. And that was at what age?
Before 20 years, I was married. I think my dad thought that Nani Suya Shimanfana Mawarientema Obey Basabasa. And as
So-
a chief, he didn't want people to say, oh, your daughter has given birth out of wedlock.
Okay.
So I was trying to prevent that happening
So he gave your hand out in marriage.
in marriage. But actually, like I said earlier, I had somebody in mind, But then my dad also had a friend who was a doctor, an eye doctor. So this friend would come, and whenever he's coming, he comes with, this young man.
Mm-hmm.
And after secondary school, I failed in maths
Mm-hmm.
terribly. And
Mm.
if you don't get the maths, you don't go to. So when I was at home, then the friend came with the young man. And then he said, but everybody has gone to school. Why are you? I said, you too, what's your problem? He said, why are you not in school? I said, well, I failed in math. And he said, okay, I want to help you.
Maths teacher.
Maths teacher. So actually, it's my husband now. So, but I wasn't interested initially. I wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was actually my mom who saw the idea. One day he started me and said, look, that gentleman who has been teaching you, he seems to have a very good future. If he ever proposed to you, don't say no.
Wow. Hey, but what did mom see?
My husband is the direct opposite of me. I'm the all easygoing up, he's the quiet, so probably,
Yeah.
negative and positive. When it probably brings it back to zero,
Yeah.
maybe. So he was completely and to me, if there was something I really admired at that time,
Mm-hmm.
maybe there was this particular shirt he wore. I said, guy, you here for university graduate, no shirt nice, sir.
That's right.
But actually, it was my mom who
Mm.
pushed the idea. So then I said, well, and he was also able to help me to pass my maths.
Wow. Wow.
What better way to say thank
I
you than to
know.
say? So
They
by the
take
time
me.
I came back from training college,
So he also along the line was interested.
he was, but he didn't propose the way I was expecting.
Okay. How did he do it?
Now you got shit, but not.
Ah.
And this I keep telling you that who proposes to a lady with a yogurt in their pocket? Ah. Anyway, we
Thank God he was of your generation. Now, train kakra no bad this generation. Can you go to no be idea?
nobody will accept. But he was very calm. He was very quiet. Well, it's not like now where we have you have the right to say what you want.
Yeah.
During our time, Daddy speaks and that's it.
Yeah.
He says here, he says that you don't have much option to say no, but I think it's one of the best decisions.
So when your father got to hear about it, you had all these plans made with him,
Yes.
and then what? You mooted the idea to your dad or what?
Okay, so finally we got married, like I said,
With
and
your dad knowing.
with my dad knowing. Yes, yes.
When you went to tell your dad that you wanted to get married, what did he say?
When my mom told me that, he had actually also discussed with my dad.
Oh, okay.
So I think it was in the known. So I was at the training college. Those days in first year, when my mom and dad came and said they needed me at home during the weekend. It was actually my traditional engagement. And for us in those days, the traditional engagement, it settles everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. So we had our wedding 4 or 5 years later.
Okay.
When we felt we could, buy the rings and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the day when the people came to do the rites, my dad says, you are coming to take trouble away from my house, so I'm not collecting anything for you. I said,
Ah,
who actually gives their daughter to somebody for free?
that is what he did.
Yes. I said, Papa, you can't
Because
do that.
he said what? They are coming to take
Take
trouble.
I said, no, you can't do that to me. No. Well,
Wow.
yeah, it's been a journey, but I think it's one of the best decisions. Here we are today. 20 years of that, time being spent with a child with autism.
Yeah.
And trust me, probably his calm nature has kept us going.
Yeah. Wow, that's a very interesting story, to be honest. Now you got married. You're a teacher, with your husband, living life. You started life perfectly. Then kids started coming in.
Yes.
Tell me about the first experience. Now you have how many kids? You have
3.
You have 3 kids,
Yes.
and the first one.
Everything is fine. Charles is doing well.
How old
He-
is Charles?
Charles is 25 now.
Okay,
Yes. And he's a doctor,
mm.
an eye doctor.
An eye doctor.
Yes, he's been working, I think, for the past 2 years. He's fine. Then Emmanuel came 2 years after Charles, and He's also fine. He's done with university, doing his national service now.
Okay.
And then, the third one, I prayed to God. If there was any pregnancy I really prayed about, it was my last one because I really, really was desiring to have a baby girl.
So you wanted a baby girl.
Yes, I remember perfectly well when I was told at Mampong, Tetekwashi, that it
Tetekwashi.
was going to be a girl. Oh God. Started imagining everything in pink.
Wow.
Little did I know that was going to be a and oh dear. 20 years on, here we are. The child I prayed for,
Hmm.
the child I fasted for. And sometimes you begin to ask God, why? Where did I go wrong? What happened? I mean, there are certain questions you can never have the answers.
Yeah.
Probably if we can understand God, then He will cease to be God.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm taking everything calm. I'm in acceptance.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get
But
to
I won't
right
complain
now.
anymore.
But um, before you had your third born,
Nanaya,
Nanaya, had you encountered autism in any form? Had you thought about it? Had you heard about it? Had you read about it? What did you know about autism?
nothing, absolutely nothing at all.
Hmm.
Yes, nothing at all. And I was teaching, so you can imagine I didn't know anything about autism.
Okay. So now, fast forward, you put to birth, it's a girl, everybody's happy. Um, was there anything wrong?
At the beginning, no. So 1 year, yeah, started walking.
Okay.
And then around 2 years, I remember perfectly well. She says, Mommy. She says, Daddy. We speak a lot of tree at home. And one of the sentence I'll never forget, she said, Menumunsio. Menumunsio means I want water.
Yeah.
But then just before she turned 3, we noticed that she would usually flap her arm excitedly.
Mm-hmm.
She would run in circle, but she never gets dizzy. She wanted to play by herself
Mm-hmm.
most of the time. And sometimes she would just go and hide behind the furniture, sometimes the fridge. And then we also noticed that at night, sometimes she would just cry. And then a few times we also noticed that she will make a fist. Is
Yeah.
that how you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she would just stare at it. And I remember my mom saying, "Oh, obey the ejapadi be free from mobile pal." Like she brought something from wherever she came from,
Mm-hmm.
and she would just look at it. So my mom would say, "Oh, just don't hold that hand, don't open it. I'm very sure that there's something." Little did we know we were staring at autism. These were the signs, but I
Oh,
didn't know.
wow.
I did not know. And then 3 years, the few words that she had,
Mm-hmm.
she stopped using them. So there was no mama anymore. There was some retrogression before she turned 3.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it didn't occur to me it was autism. It didn't. 4 years, the signs were there, but again, I said, no. Me, I like to talk. If God will give me a child, not a child will not talk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, other things fine, but for a child who doesn't communicate, no. So 4, 5, but just before she turns 6, like I said earlier, I went to a Catholic school, Notre Dame. And then one of the Peace Corps volunteers became a very good friend of mine. So after her service, she went back to the US and then came back to visit later.
Mm-hmm.
She was the first person to mention the word autism. So when Laura came to visit us, by then we were at Achimote School. 15 minutes, just 15 minutes of being with us. Then she said, Mary, is your daughter always like this? And I said, like what? He said she hardly keeps eye contact. When you call, she doesn't respond. She's like she's in her own world. There's these repetitive behaviors and all that. I said, well, for some time now she's been like this. Then she says, have you heard about autism? Word in the Quran say,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of word?
Mm-hmm.
I said no. So after the visit on that day, I went with her to, those times we didn't have these smartphones, and then went to a cafe. Then we went in, bought the airtime at the
Yeah.
time, as
They'll give you a code.
oh my brother, 30 minutes when it's getting finished, they will go
Then
back
you
and
go back and
top up.
pay some
Yes.
more.
So we bought the code, and then she googled the word autism and so much. Then she asked them to print. So they printed everything, gave to me, and said, go and read. So I asked her, how do you know that it's autism? Then she says, my boss in the US
Hmm.
has a son like that. And so I know about autism. Again, I didn't. So to cut long story short, between that time when Yah was 6, between that time and before she turned 7, we had gone round to finally get we got the diagnosis. And indeed it was autism. But she was almost 7. We had wasted the time that we could have, you know, used to get some early intervention for her. Because for autism, the early years are so important. If the child needs to start speech therapy, occupational, whatever it is that they need to do, that time is so, so, so important. If you miss out,
Mm.
you know, at the formative years, you've missed out a lot.
Wow.
And we missed that. So I've done a lot within the time we found out, and now
Yeah.
we still have a long way to go, but
How did you feel when the diagnosis was confirmed?
I I felt like my world has come to an end. Even 13 years after the diagnosis, I still, remember that day. And I remember the question I asked the speech pathologist. So I asked, is there any medication to give her? He said, no, you learn to manage it with therapy. It was even, I said, what is therapy? What are you talking about? Is it a school? He said, no, they need to spend time with her, find out how she learns, whether she is this or that. They need to know where she is on the spectrum. It was like the word was handed over to you to find the
Hmm.
meaning. And it was very difficult. But one thing he said that caught me really sad was that there was no cure. But the child can, make a lot of progress if you put in the right interventions.
Interventions. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you ask me what are the right interventions, that's why they say behind the child that makes the most progress is an active child. It's a spectrum. It
Mm.
affects children differently. So
Hmm.
where is your child on this spectrum?
Mm.
We have some children with autism that can communicate, but they may have some social deficit. There are others who have, some, um, no language, but social skills are good. There are others whose social skills it's not good. There are challenges, and there's communication challenges, and then there's also the sensory part.
Mm.
So it's behind the name autism. There's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much that one person needs tons of professionals to be able to help. And it goes with money.
Mm.
It's really expensive, very expensive. So for parents who are going through the same journey like I am doing, it's not a journey for the faint-hearted. Trust me, Lexis, you will not even wish this for your worst enemy. You will not.
Did you find out at the time about what could have caused it?
I asked, and they said, and even up till now, nobody can really tell what causes autism. There are some school of thought that says, the childhood vaccines may have caused that, um, other, the environment, chemicals, but again, nobody can just say that A or B caused
Caused it.
autism.
Okay.
If I have malaria and you ask me, I know that
Mm.
it's caused by a mosquito. But with autism,
Mm.
you know, it's difficult to tell.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you have been given diagnosis. You've probably read a bit about it, and you've gotten to understand what you have on your hands. I want to I want to understand your thought process. Was it difficult accepting it?
Extremely. I was in denial, like I said, even though when, my friend came and informed us that, it could be autism, I was, and Of course, we went to hospital. Again, now there's a lot of information on the internet, people advocating awareness, so it's gradually
Hmm.
getting, we're getting there. But during 14, 13 years ago, it wasn't like this, you know. So it was difficult. I was in denial for so long. I was in denial,
For
and I
how
remember,
long?
like I said, until I was around 6 years, that I could say, okay, now if I have a 6-year-old who is not potty trained, who is not communicating, who has a lot of behavior issues, I can still convince myself there's nothing wrong.
Mm.
So it was then that finally it dawned on me that, indeed, I'm faced with,
Yeah.
you know, the diagnosis. And so I went through the denial, until, and acceptance takes time.
Hmm.
It takes time, you know, it takes time. But the idea is don't be there for too long. The more you wait and sit on the fence, the more you waste this child's, opportunity to get early intervention.
Mm.
But it takes time. And I think another issue is getting somebody that you can confide in who would really listen to you and not pass a judgment, you know. And I always give this example that there was a lady, who used, she was coming to my center. Every day when she comes in, either she's forgotten about her child's food or the school bag or the spoon, or every day she forgets something. So one day I just called her out of anger, and I was like, "My sister, you don't crab with autism. I mean, put yourself together." And then she started crying, and then he said, "Anytime that I walk in here late and I complain about A or B, it is because I am coming." She was going through chemo. I just felt so bad for not even listening to her, but in my mind I'd already passed a judgment. Are you the only one with a child with autism?
Hmm.
Every day you forget something. It's not because I this is my life. Every day that I come in here 2 3 times, sometimes within a week or twice that I come in late, it is because I am coming from, I went through chemo. I'm dealing with cancer, and this is my first child. And that changed everything. So I asked myself on that day, if she had not been confident enough to mention it, would I have given her that opportunity to explain herself? Or would I continue in my mind to maybe probably accuse her, like, are
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So, what I'm trying to say, there's a lot that we go through that people have no idea of. In the face of people, they see a perfect, And even me, I take it for example, sometimes I weep in my room. I mean, because I look at her, 20 years we could have had a conversation. 20 years I'm sure she could cook for us, she can clean, and you get up in the morning, you have to bath her. If I give her the sponge, she will just do one side until you ask her to go to the next hand, and even when she has done it herself, which is taking about 30 minutes, I have to do it all over again. When she's in her menses, she's not aware. Thanks to pull-ups now. Before it was so difficult. Wherever I go, I need to carry, sanitary pads, and she doesn't even understand her own body. So you look at her, and the amount of work that goes in, making sure she's neat, making sure she doesn't smell, making sure she's eating right, making sure I paste her, or brush her every day so she doesn't get cavities. I mean, it's so much. And then I ask myself, for how long can I continue to do this? Yes, there are times that we get very good people that come in to support. But Lexus, sometimes you also look at your child's privacy.
Hmm.
You know, there are times that people come, "Oh, Auntie Mary, I mean, during the mom," but it's not everything about you want another person. Now she's 20, totally have no idea of, like I can get into trouble, and so I have to be extremely careful. Imagine somebody takes advantage of her. What do I do? And she won't even be able to tell me, "Mommy, A or B got me pregnant." So then she becomes like a handbag. Even when people come in to help, sometimes you just have to be careful. Are they doing out of good intention or they want to take advantage? As much as I try to, you know, cut away people, at the same time too, it's also difficult for me.
Yeah, yeah. Because you will need a helping hand.
And trust me, I have gone through depression before 2 years ago. Nobody saw it. It was my son that looked at me and said, Mommy, this is not you. You are changing. I became so paranoid and I was complaining. I was eating at night. I could get up at 2 a.m. and start cooking. And I would start, arranging things in my wardrobe, cleaning. My husband was like, why you keep on cleaning, you don't finish. But he didn't even notice it.
Hmm.
But what actually got me finally to go to hospital, I started having panic attacks. And it's one of the worst, feelings you ever. It feels like you're about to die and you are out of breath.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, I don't want to remember those dark moments. And this was 2 years ago. And so finally, my son said, okay, let's go to hospital. Let's go and speak to a doctor. I said, hey, me na mano dende I'm a TV so ne F so na me ka say obi ko sha me pantos ye ma me say na dwen. you know and so and thanks so much to Mission Pediatrics, to Dr. Adum, who was my doctor at the time, and Dr. Jifa. The two of these ladies, they did amazing and asked me what I went through at the time. I was put on medication. And then we started the therapy where I could, they were just sitting there for 2 hours listening to me. What are those feelings I was going through? And then,
Mm-hmm.
and within a period of I was on the medication for 1 year.
Mm.
I had to be monitored. After 1 year, I was fine. I was taking off the medication. At this time, people saw that there was Mary who has no problem.
Yeah.
People were calling in, sharing their own problems. When I was at the verge of collapsing, I was at the end of the tunnel. And you know how all these things started? At the verge of the coronavirus,
Mm-hmm.
I was monitoring on TV. I was looking at the people who were in isolation, and I started asking myself, should Nanaya get coronavirus? And then we go to the hospital and she's isolated. How would the doctors handle? Sometimes fear of the unknown,
Yeah.
it kills more than even the disease itself.
Mm.
Before I realized I was there. And so I just want to also use this opportunity to tell people, it is okay when you are going through so much within you. Please open up. Pray to God. Open up to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Don't die stupid death. It's not worth it.
Mm.
It is not worth it. I read something today that was very profound. It says that if you work so hard and you even die, the only people that will remember you worked late or even you work so are your children. The rest won't even remember.
Mm.
So it's very important. I think, the age of social media and all that, everybody you want to show the perfect side of you. For people to think that all is perfect with Mary. But behind that perfection are the real challenges of life. And it is okay. There are days that you have money with you. There are days that you are broke. It is part of life. It doesn't mean that I failed. And I think it's important for us to be honest about these things and speak openly about them.
Yeah.
Even as we inspire people, don't let us portray that all is well. Somebody helped me to get to where I am. And I'm so grateful for those people that believed in me, believed in my vision, and got me to where I am now.
You have an amazing story. I mean, I could listen to you all day, and it's just inspiring and motivating. And I like what you said. Adversities are a part of life. It can't all be blissful, so we have to accept these things and work to move on. And more importantly, open up to people. If you're going through something, you open up,
Open up.
share. Well, if you're tuned in, this is Joy 99.7 FM. I'm seeing lots of your messages coming through. Um, Steve from Tema Community 3 says, Lexus, I had a girl with this problem. We, the parents, got to know of it when she was 6 months. It was not easy at all. For the first 6 years she was alive, oh my God, it was hell. She has passed on. May her soul rest in peace. She was called Lebene, very beautiful. I named her after my mother, but the joy of her was up and down. You need a big heart to handle these children. Lots of love, patience, lots of time, and kindness to take care of them. In Sempi, what people will say, but we did our best. What hospital didn't we take care to, including specialists? You need money. I can give more if your station would want to listen to. Okay, Steve, thank you so much. This is Elsie's mom, also a special mom. I've known Mary for a long time. She's done so well with Nanaya. I remember when all Nanaya wanted to do was play with empty bottles and what she used to do to her face when she was breaking out with pimples. We thank God for her life. God bless you, Mary. What was the playing with the bottles about?
Okay, so some of our children on the spectrum have what we call obsessive behaviors.
Hmm.
So she started with playing with the bottles. She just stare at the bottles and play. She will just hold, even when she's going to sleep, she wants to have the bottles close to her.
Okay.
We move from bottles to brooms. She'll just pick the sticks
Mm-hmm.
and break them into M shapes.
Okay.
She'll do that with every broomstick she can get. We move from there to the wrapper on these ice creams.
Mm.
I don't want to mention the brands. We move from there. I mean, we've gone through so many of these, obsessions.
Okay.
Now she's so obsessed with handbags. Oh, she has this handbag, she loves so much. I
Mm-hmm.
was going out, but I was getting late, so I took the handbag and then I went first. And she came later with my sister. And I was at the high table, we're having a discussion. There
Mm-hmm.
was a big gathering.
Yeah.
And I walked in there, she saw that I was using her bag. She walked straight to where I was at the top, took her bag, opened, took my phone, and gave it to me, and then she walked back. Like, next time, get your own bag. But
That's
you see,
all.
that's the side of autism.
Yeah.
Anybody would
Yeah.
understand that this is not where you have to let people know that mommy took my bag.
Yeah.
She didn't give.
She didn't care. I see. I think last weekend as well, I got to learn about a condition called echolalia.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
When they
it's
keep mentioning words, so,
yes,
like
and
parrot.
repeating words and all of those things. Okay, all right. Uh, like Steve said earlier, it needs time. You need to be with them most of the time. How did this affect your work?
I had to stop working at a point when it became very difficult. Having, nannies come and go. I remember within one particular year, we had changed about four nannies. They come, and yeah, I was not sleeping at night. So when they come and she's crying and all that, so later my husband said, okay, I think it's time for you to stop teaching and
Hmm.
be a full time. It was very difficult. So we're then depending only on his salary.
Yeah.
It was very difficult. I started selling shito, second-hand clothes, groundnut paste. What haven't I done to survive?
Wow.
Yes, you know,
And and
it's been a
and
journey.
and it is very expensive as well, because
Extremely.
you talked about therapy. Tell me about therapy.
So most of these children after assessment, if you are lucky, you get somebody to sit down with you, a team, comprising of the psychologist, the educational support team, the speech therapist, your pediatrician, all this group of doctors or professionals who come together and put up what we call individual education plan IEP.
Hmm.
So it's like a plan of what needs to be done for you. And this is spelled out if you need speech therapy.
Hmm.
Some of the children will need 5 days a week, 4 days or 3 days a week of speech. Now, an hour of speech therapy will not cost you anything less than 150 Ghana cedis
Hmm.
per session. And so, if you're needing four, we are talking about 600 Ghana cedis in a week. And that is only for speech. Occupational therapy is the aspect of therapy that also looks at potty training, feeding by yourself, coordination issues, and all that. And if you are also going to pay for that, and if you're a public servant, how do you fund this?
Hmm.
If you have a child who is very hyperactive and you are renting a place where you have other tenants, and you have this child who is not sleeping at night, crying and making noise, how do you manage? So it's extremely expensive, and this is why we say that parents, we need to come together, come to terms with the diagnosis, and advocate and lobby government. It's so important. It is so important because only few people are able to afford therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Only few. And I keep saying that the children that really need the services, they're the ones that are not getting it because the parents can't afford.
Yeah.
The parents can't afford. It takes pool of professionals to raise just one child
Mm-hmm.
with autism, and you must pay for every services. Where else where insurance covers some of these costs or majority part of it, and for parents who want to stay home, there's some percentage of. But here, we don't have anything like that, and
Yeah.
so it's extremely
So that's
expensive.
that's is that why you put together the Clicks Africa Foundation?
Okay, so clicks came into being as a result of my own experience with Nanaya,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt that there's a need to do something to support. The name is clicks, like the English word click, to click with someone.
Yeah.
To be able to work with a child on the autism spectrum, you need to bond, you need to click. But I took the C
And
for
make
branding
and made
purpose
it
and make
K.
it K
Yeah.
because my family is Kofo. We are all,
Oh,
that's the
okay.
surname. So,
Yeah.
so that's how the name Clicks Africa Foundation. We are located at Dome Pillar 2.
Mm-hmm.
We have an early intervention support. We have a speech therapist there, occupational therapist there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have trained teachers
Okay.
that also support the children. And so we are at Dome Pillar 2. We also have a vocational training center, also at Dome, where we have between the ages of 13 to 26, teaching them vocational skills and what we call adaptive skills, everyday skills that they need, to support themselves. For me, it's not just about wanting the child to communicate, but wanting the child to be able to do things for themselves. We must also admit there's some on the spectrum who may not be able to do something. They will need 24/7 support. So it's very important. Last week I got to know of two parents passing away.
Mm-hmm.
And this morning I had a call from one of the fathers. He didn't know what to do with the boy. The boy is 5 years. The other one, the son, is 28 years.
Hmm.
Yes. And it's so difficult.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. So I think this is the time for us to have that conversation of talking about respite support
Yeah.
for some of these grown young adults on the autism spectrum. We need to lobby government. We need to lobby the districts and
Mm.
have services. We were advocating, and it started. I don't know what happened, but this was also withdrawn. We are hoping that we can also liaise with the National Service Secretariat, have some of these National Service personnel being posted to some of the centers because it's so difficult maintaining staff,
Yeah.
paying them, paying social security and all that. It's extremely expensive. And so when a parent come and they are not able to afford, you'd have to turn them off. And that is not very good because we come here, we advocate, we raise awareness. They come and because they don't have the money, you turn them off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we really need people, organizations to come and
And
support.
support.
Yeah.
For those who want to get in touch with you, how do they reach out to you?
So my number is 0244 988 977. 0244 988 977. We need toiletries, we need money, or even come and volunteer your time.
Yeah.
Spend some time with the kids.
Auntie Mary,
Yes, Lex.
I mean, sure.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm grateful to your team.
Thank you. We're grateful that you shared a bit of your story with us, and it will inspire us to continue to support, you and the people in the fraternity as well.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
This evening, I'll be spending time with Auntie Mary Amoah, who's the founder of Clicks Africa Foundation, a support center for children with autism, and the current president of the Inclusion Ghana, a net organization working to reduce stigmatization and ensure full inclusion of all persons with intellectual disability and their families. Thank you for spending time with us here on Joy FM. Stay tuned in and have a great evening.